Let's see. All right. Hey, we're back. So I handled what I needed to take care of. Went to the gym, some cardio, so we should be good to go. So I was overlooking this a little bit. I think we are in a good spot to actually start wrapping up this outline. If anything, I'll add more stuff later if need be. But I think for the most part, we should be good. So let's see. We talked about her without the yandere tendencies. Okay, we can do a little bit. Excuse me, we can do a little bit more. Excuse me. But like I mentioned before, this is gonna be I'm gonna be streaming the whole day. So I'm gonna finish this up. We'll be on the script writing phase. Then I'll head back to the horror one because I actually started script writing on that one. So we'll be going back and forth between the two today. I don't have no plans today, so it's just gonna be a clean working day. I'll do Golden Sun when I'm a little bit more into this because these are both pretty lengthy, complex videos. I need to focus on them more. What section is this? This is section 18. Oh my god. It's, we can talk about which is true in a sense compared to your average basic everyday yandere. Vira is relatively like in control for the most part. Situation. Yeah, they are situation. like Narmaya in a sense. Like Narmaya, like is she's pretty aloof and like keeps to herself, but once it comes to Gran, it's like, well, Gran or Jita is like, ah, shit. Loin gets himself involved in very weird, precarious situations, but again, I'm surprised the guy's even still alive. That's good. That's about right now. Well, that's 25 sections. I'll be very salty because that's gonna be so long. It's not that I can't do it. It's like eventually my voice is just gonna start giving out, and I'm like, oh great. I go from sounding normal to starting to sound like Wolverine, or worse. And that's what makes her different from a lot of yanderes. Like certain yanderes are just completely one dimensional, and you really wonder how the hell they functioned up to that point. But as mentioned, I will finish this. Hopefully, finish this. I'll go on into the other one because I need to actually continue working on that script. Later on tonight, if everything checks out and I feel like we're good, we didn't leave any stone uncovered, like we covered all our bases, I'll start script writing for this. But again, I want to make sure like this is perfect. Like I definitely have to make sure I didn't miss anything. This is a very complex topic. What makes her different is, in a sense, she's self-aware that she's not right. Well, I can't really say not right. She's self-aware. we don't really need to mention it, but yeah, we don't really need to mention it. But yeah, she is self-aware that her tendencies are kind of like completely out there. Okay, we can do this. I knew it every time. I think it differentiates often. Though in a sense, her actions are like mindless, like she's trapped in them. That's tragic. Coffee's must be done. Well, I've had enough caffeine for the enough caffeine for now, so I should be good to go. Okay. I'm gonna be cheeky a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit cheeky right now. I cannot fucking spell right now. Do not take what I'm writing at face value. Please do not do that. Man said conquest. That's a jeez. Okay, at least I didn't write annihilation. Like annihilation is such an oppressive word. Okay, that's good. We can go into a little bit more detail here. Exposed. Oh shit! Nice. All right, I didn't misspell it. I didn't misspell it this time. Yeah, I did. It's all good. God damn, every single time. Imagine that, the bodybuilder spelling aesthetic wrong. Refinement, yeah, refinement. Masking. Yeah, masking. This is not theatrical insanity. Yeah, it's not theatrical. Yeah, it is kind of masking. Yeah, it's masking. What is it? It's, I'm gonna use. I don't want to use it. I'm gonna use it just for the sake of using it. And I'll put humor again. And I know I've used it up. Hold on. No, that's fine. And loyalty. I know kind of it's not redundant. I'm writing this down just for my personal use later, because I know I'm gonna have to double back on this later. This outline is kind of it's not structured properly because again, there's a lot of information that I actually have to go through later when I'm actually doing script writing. The more notes, the better. Like this outline doesn't need structure right now. It needs as much information as possible just to make sure we're covering all the bases. It's not normally how I do my outlines. It's just this is such a crap ton of information I have to put down. Yes again, every time. Oh my god, the S. Talk about what defines her. So, what defines? Or isn't raw what she does to others. It's about what she, oh yeah, caught that shit this time. Fix this. I just need that as a placeholder for now. Here we go. See how this sounds. Section 19, Beyond the Yandere trope. Vira beyond the stigma. Unlike many characters stereotyped under the Yandere umbrella, Vira often displays intense emotional control. She is not constantly impulsive or unhinged. Her breakdowns are situational, and most of the time she is composed, deliberate, and even graceful in speech and action. This highlights that her stability is not constant, but reactive to oddly specific situations. Extremely oddly specific. Vera operates effectively in her leadership role in Albion. This role demands discipline, planning, and leadership. She fulfills these responsibilities with poise, indicating that her obsession did not define her personality or impairing her from functioning outside emotionally triggering of context. Through voice lines and expressions, she reveals moments of painful self-awareness. She knows she's not well, which is a good thing. This capacity for self-reflection is what differentiates her from the basic Yandere. Her actions are not mindless; she's tracked within them. But yeah, that's good that she does. She knows she's clearly not well, but it's all good. While Yandere stereotypes are often depict possessive love turning violent for thrill or to punish, Vera's behavior stems from genuine terror. Her obsessive actions are driven by the belief that Katalina's recognition. I believe that Katalina's. I gotta rewrite that again. Her obsessive actions are driven by a belief that without Katalina's. Her obsessive actions are driven by a belief that without Katalina's recognition, she will vanish. Again, don't take what I write at face value, please. This is emotional survival, not romantic conquest. Her visual and verbal ploys aren't just aesthetic. Her visual and verbal ploys aren't just aesthetic. They're a defensive mechanism. Her calmness, beauty, and refinement form a shield to hold back the chaos within. This is not theatrical insanity. It's masking, professionalism, trauma in disguise. When not triggered, Vera expresses gentleness and loyalty. Quotation marks. Her softer moments show she's capable of authentic, non-obsessive emotion, but her instability has in a sense rewired her emotional anchor to be controlled by Katalina's presence. What defines Vera is not her potential for harm, but the depth of her character. Her story doesn't revolve around what she does to others. It's about how she has no control of it. There we go. What defines Vera is not her potential for harm, but the depth of her character. Her story doesn't revolve around what she does to others. It's about how she has no control of it due to her mental fragmentation. Her obsession is not about possession. It's about not knowing how to be a person if she isn't needed. Again, it's like I brought this up earlier. Let's just say Katalina goes away or is no longer in her life. What will happen to Vera's like mental state? Like what will happen to the person, especially since Katalina is seen as an emotional anchor to her? I'm pretty sure she'll be okay. Like we've seen how yanderes go with rejection. It's not pretty. Okay. Even on my days off, why do y'all message me? It's a Saturday. I don't want to have to work till Monday. Okay, section 19. We can still go. We can still do more. There's a couple of support sections I think we can actually add into this. Just give me a second to think. Well, we can talk about conditioning and free will, I guess. Okay, yeah, we can talk about conditioning and free will. That's interesting. Section 20. The illusion of choice. I like that. Illusion of choice. Conditioning versus free will. Okay, let's think about this one. Hmm. I'm gonna pull a funny real quick. Yeah, just hear me out. Okay, I like that. So she had to be a certain way to gain certain yeah, she had to be in a sense she had to be a certain way in order to get like in order to be she actually get that. Warmth only came when she was useful, so she got that emotional warmth from being useful. Being obedient brought affection, devotion, no, deviation. Deviation. I don't know why I write devotion, deviation. Deviation invited emotional calm. So when she didn't fit the mold right or just was kind of like rebellious, it only invited emotional coldness. Yeah, that's fine. I'm thinking a lot of myself. Sorry. Okay. Um, what more can we add to this? I'm gonna talk about trauma bonding. Oh yeah. I'm very familiar with that. Thank you, boot camp. For all our hardships, we bond. Oh yeah, I'm opening up a can of worms here. Oh yeah, I'm definitely opening up a can of worms. So, in a sense, Oh yeah, definitely a can of worms here. Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting point of view right there. But again, that opens up another can of worms. So this raises a deeper existential thought. So no, it's not even a thought. It's a oh shit, wow, tragedy. Because if she never learned to love freely, has she ever loved at all? Has she ever truly loved at all? Oh my god, god damn it, what? It gets even more, the rabbit hole opens up even more. Has she ever truly loved at all? That's a good question. It's like, what if she never met Catalina? Wow. Holy fuck, that's interesting. That's a very that's a again big can of worms. 12 o'clock, but chat, whoever watches this shit, do not drink unless you're an adult. I'm probably gonna need this. I just opened up a big ass rabbit hole. Okay, I gotta somewhat capitalize on that. I'll go. Okay. Alright. I think this might work. Section 21. 21. We'll call this emotional safety in the fantasy of wholeness. Okay. So how should I go about this? It's core. Vira's obsession. Okay, hear me out. Not romance, emotional safety. So, Catalina becomes Katalina becomes not just a person, not just a person, but a symbol, a symbol, a symbol, a symbol, symbol that offers stability, conditional presence, presence. Identity affirmation. Yep, identity affirmation. Holy shit. So that's this. I'm definitely taking a break. My head hurts. This is a lot of a lot of shit that we're going over right now. But we'll be back. I need to continue with the script writing for the horror one, so we'll definitely be back. But yeah, I need to take a break after. This is a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Again, I'm trying to leave no stone left uncovered, so this is fine. But damn. You really have to think about this. So session is our way of trying to freeze one moment in her life when she's whole and safe. Yes, okay. Freeze a moment in her life. She felt whole and safe. Again, that does, oh my god, that does open up another fucking can of worms. Sorry for my French. All right. Oh, this is fine. So this reframes her image as not a mad lover, as someone clinging to the last emotional landmark in collapsing world. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to deny she's mentally unstable. Like, we're not going to deny that. Okay, I gotta read that. Definitely read this over again. At its core, Vira's obsession is a fantasy, not romance, but of emotional safety. Katalina becomes not just a person, but a symbol that offers stability, unconditional presence, and identity affirmation. Obsession is her way of trying to freeze one moment in her life where she felt whole and safe. It's a fantasy of performance and life defined by performance and loss. This reframes her image as not a mad lover, but as someone clinging to the last emotional landmark in her collapsing world. So she doesn't want to possess Catalina. Doesn't want to possess Catalina. He wants to escape the storm inside her mind. My head hurts. Oh god damn it, my head hurts. Holy shit. We've definitely gone in this time around. Alright, give me a second to think here. What more can I don't even think I need to add anymore. Okay. I don't think I need to add anymore. I really, really don't. But I'm gonna go over the whole entire outline and see where the hell I can. I don't even think I need to add no more. Like, we're at 21 sections. Okay, let's go. 11 pages worth of notes. Alright, just gotta write something down. Give me a second. Alright, so we can pretty much say that this is done. Okay, let's do this. So we'll see. We'll thoroughly go through this and we'll go from there. What if the love you crave isn't love at all, but a desperate attempt to stop yourself from disappearing? This sets the stage for exploring love twisted by trauma into something that threatens the self's very existence rather than nurturing it. So, we have to establish the video focus rather than a shallow exploration of the yandere trope as an exaggerated anime stereotype. This video will unpack Vira's emotional transformation, how obsession is a symptom of identity fracture and grief. We're going to discuss discomfort and empathy. This is a story of a girl shaped and ultimately shattered by forces beyond her control, forced to exist only when needed by another. The goal is to dismantle labels and look deeper into human vulnerability. So, section 1 is going to be the Yandere archetype, origins, traits, and misconceptions. So, Yandere is a combination of two traits: Yanderu, sick, dere, loving. A Yandere is typically a character who is deeply affectionate yet dangerously obsessive or mentally unstable. This trope often exaggerates obsessive love to the point of violence and madness. Common traits include intense over-attachment to a specific love interest, violent and extreme protectiveness, deep jealousy, emotional fragility, and sometimes delusions or hallucinations that distort reality. These traits are often over-dramatized for entertainment but have real psychological analogs. So real-world psychological parallels. Many yandere mirror symptoms of borderline personality disorder, BPD, which is characterized by a fear of attachment, unstable self-image, and impulsive behavior. Dependent personality disorder, DPD, which involves excessive reliance on others for support. Obsessive compulsive traits in trauma bonding, where abuse and attachment are intertwined. The misconceptions of yandere. This trope is often fetishized as sexy or quirky, trivializing the emotional pain and violence. Dismissed as a psychotic person, reduce complex trauma to a caricature or understood only as a plot device, ignoring the mental health aspect. Vira's unique positioning. At first glance, Vira fits the yandere mold, her possessiveness, her intense fixation on Katalina, and jealous behaviors that align with the trope. For example, her animosity for anyone who likes Katalina in any way, such as Luane. Her narrative transcends the stereotype by exploring psychological roots of her behavior, identity dissolution, and deep grief that are often overlooked in the yandere portrayals. Section 2. Childhood and developmental trauma. Vira's upbringing in Albion is marked with a cold hierarchical society obsessed with perfection, control, and status. The hell is that? Where emotions are suppressed and achievement is valued. Their environment, in a sense, deprives children of unconditional affection. Emotional neglect. Vira learns early that her worth is tied solely to performance and usefulness. Love and worth are conditional, only granted when expectations are fulfilled. This can create deep-seated insecurities and fears of abandonment. This formative impact of trauma fractures her emerging identity. Instead of developing an autonomous sense of self, Vira's emotional needs are unmet unless tied to external and internal validation. The arrival of Katalina introduces the first genuine emotional connection, someone who offers safety, warmth, and a fragile sense of belonging to Vira. However, this bond is complicated by Vira's already fractured self, turning Katalina into a lifeline rather than a peer. The psychological foundation of Vira's logic becomes, if I'm good, I will be loved. If I fail, I won't be loved. This shapes all subsequent relationships and choices, framing love as conditional and existence as precarious. Section 3. Albion's gilded cage. The false sense of self emerges. To survive within Albion's unforgiving structure, Vira constructs a false self, a mask of the perfect successor who meets expectations without compliment, suppressing her anger, pain, and vulnerability. This mask is a brittle facade necessary for social acceptance. Katalina is both a beacon of hope and an unattainable ideal. Vira's emotional security depends on her, but Katalina is also a symbol of the very perfection and control Vira's pressure to embody. This duality creates an impossible emotional dynamic. Vira's love for Katalina is not born from pure romantic desire, but is a survival mechanism, an attachment formed in response to trauma and deprivation, designed to stave off emotional collapse. This phrase illustrates how Vira's identity becomes increasingly fragmented, with genuine feelings buried beneath layers of performance and need. Section 4. The price of conditional love. Vira's self-worth becomes inseparable from her utility as Katalina. Her identity fuses with the idea of being indispensable. Without Catalina's recognition, Vira fears non-existence. This emotional dependency turns love into a source of terror rather than comfort. Any perceived rival or emotional distance from Katalina is experienced as existential death. Control overtakes affection. Vira's attempts to maintain closeness becomes possessive, restrictive, and violent, not out of malice, but desperate fear. Why does that keep on doing that? Okay, I'm pretty sure I changed that the other day. Desperate fear. This cycle of fear and control deepens emotional isolation, perpetuating a self-fulfilling prophecy of abandonment and loss. Section 5. The brain's role. Obsession, memory, and emotional survival. Trauma hyperactivates the amygdala, the brain's threat detection sensor, making Vira sensitive to any signals of loss and abandonment. This leads to fixation on perceived emotional threats. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, in a sense paradoxically intensifies her obsession, creating a neurological loop where attachment becomes untangled with fear and anxiety. The prefrontal cortex, right here, which is responsible for impulsive control and emotional regulation, is impaired by stress and trauma, reducing Vira's ability to moderate her reactions or reflect irrationality. Default mode network, DMN, the brain's system for self-referential thought and narrative identity. This contributes to Vira's fractured sense of self and difficulty maintaining a coherent personal narrative. The limbic system, flooding Vira in cycles of emotional pain and fear, reinforces her obsessive behaviors as a coping mechanism. Section 6. The role of memory and trauma recall. Katalina exists simultaneously as a cherished memory and an urgent emotional necessity for Vira. Vira's diary functions as both a narrative anchor and a prison. It preserves identity by chronicling emotional pain but also traps her stagnation. Section 7. Obsession as emotional survival. Vira's fixation is not irrational madness, but a desperate survival strategy. Her psychological lifeline in a world that offers no unconditional acceptance. In a sense, as long as she's here, I'm whole. When Katalina steps away or withdraws, Vira's psyche spirals into fear, triggering escalating attempts to regain control, sometimes through violence or coercion. Obsession is thus revealed as an adaptive response to unbearable vulnerability rather than mere pathology. Section 8. Interpersonal relations beyond Katalina. Vira's interactions with other characters, Luane, Gran, Jada, the crew, Narmaya, etc., reveal her internal fragmentation and emotional isolation. Attempts to form genuine connections outside Katalina fail or are superficial, emphasizing her social alienation. These relationships are marked by discomfort, guardedness, and subtle emotional static that underscores Vira's struggle to exist independently. Section 9. Agency and resistance. Her violent and destructive actions are often unconscious efforts to maintain emotional safety. Letting go of her obsessive traits means facing emotional annihilation. I still can't believe I use that. Emotional annihilation. An unbearable loss. Her love for Katalina means everything to her. Any loss would feel like death to her. This resistance highlights the tragic bind of trauma survivors caught between the safety of pain and the fear of the unknown. Due to her intense love for Katalina, any change would cause damage to her already fragile self. Section 10. The threshold of dissociation. Vira's collapse is not a dramatic breakdown, but a quiet, surreal dissociation. A fragmentation of a conscience and identity. Her dialogue becomes disorganized, repetitive, and pleading, mirroring her internal chaos. In Granblue Versus, her voice lines, expressions, and animation reflects this shift. Smiles are forced and designed to show a deranged look. Her eyes become less detailed in comparison to others, and to show an unstable mindset, i.e. her interactions with Luane. She has a deranged look. Her eyes are devoid of emotion. This signifies the intense animosity she has toward him. Thus, her tone wavers between control and despair. This isn't a villain's descent, but the dissolution of a self that was never made whole, an emotional shattering rather than a moral fall. Section 11. The Yandere traits. Jesus Christ. Alright. Vira, as mentioned, is a character who is complex, but if you take away the Yandere qualities, there's a glimpse of a somewhat normal person. As she interacts with specific characters, often those she respects or of higher authority than her, there are glimpses of normalcy. She has the ability of building relationships with people beyond her obsession with Katalina. She shows signs of acting with some autonomy, making choices that are not anchored solely in fear or control. Healing is framed as integrating pain rather than erasing trauma, a slow linear process of reclaiming a fractured identity. This potential emphasizes the humanity beneath the trope and invites empathy for trauma survivors. Okay, Section 12. Psychological disorders explored with care. So BPD's framework explains fear of abandonment and identity confusion, but Vira's experience transcends diagnosis. DPD reflects her clinging and obsessive dynamics, highlighting dependency on Katalina for emotional support. Trauma-related dissociation fragmentation disrupts her narrative continuity and sense of self. This video will frame these disorders in explanatory tools and not clinical labels, promoting understanding rather than stigma. Section 13. Symbolism and mythological ties. Mirrors symbolize fractured selfhood and loss of coherent identity. Reflections show what is lost or hollowed. Mythological parallels. Lady Rokujo, Medea, Narcissus. Vira, in a sense, can be seen as a tragic heroine shaped by her own mind. Section 14. God damn it. Section 14. Existential horror. Identity without anchors. I gotta cross-reference that later. Definitely have to. So Vira's horror is existential, the terror of non-being, the erasure of a self beyond physical death or madness, i.e. Vira's emotional anchor is Katalina. So if for some reason Katalina disappears from her life hypothetically, then some dark implications could happen. Usually Yanderes, excluding Vira in this example, are intimately attached to their loved one. But it's usually the case that they have no one else in the world, no one else in their life to fill the void. So if they can't have that respected person, then shenanigans could happen, such as getting rid of important people in that person's life, or rather obstacles in their way. But if for some reason that person disappears, then the Yandere could potentially do something drastic, such as going completely and utterly ballistic, or worse. In Vira's case, it's different mostly because, in contrast to the average basic everyday Yandere, she has attachments to people. For example, she is respected amongst her peers and can build interpersonal relationships that go beyond the common Yandere. One could One could see her losing Katalina as not only fear, but being forced to live without her is something she could potentially not live with. Again, Katalina is seen as an anchor of a stable self to cling to. She's not afraid of losing Katalina. She's afraid of having to live after. Again, INTM that shit. This is an existential void that defines her tragedy in a sense. So, her portrayal in Granblue Versus. Voice acting conveys a controlled fragility. Vira is shaking by precise tone, max deep instability. Her confident but twitching body language subtly reveals inner turmoil and emotional conflict. The eyes are often seen as a key indicator of someone's emotional state. So in Vera's case, her eyes change depending on who she interacts with. Examples being Vera versus character she has good relationships. She has a good relationship with. Eyes are normal but become less detailed when she gets into battle. This could allude to her mentally being fine with the character, but shutting herself out to focus on the encounter out of respect. Vera versus character she dislikes. Eyes are normal but immediately become less detailed, not really vocal. More so takes the encounter seriously from the get-go. Vera versus Lorraine. Eyes are not detailed at all. Eyebrows take the common praised appearance that signifies her intense dislike of him. One quote, their animations create dissonance. Surface elegance clashes with desperate neediness and vulnerability. A good example is her actions. Vera appears as the proper Ojo-sama 1 second and begins acting manic the next second. Her being idle against Katalina, for example, have her saying One-sama lovingly. Coupled with her taunt, she says One-sama hunched over, bang covering her eyes, her face with a very exaggerated smile. Normal Vera, not in her install mode, does a better job of showcasing her crazy antics. Her super has her going through numerous colorful expressions and emotional states. Section 16. Visual and audio subtext. Contrast between a gentle, elegant color palette and violent undertones in her design underscore duality. Her outfit, in contrast to Katalina, is more reserved. The voice actress's performance shifts fluidity among reverence, pain and sorrow, anger, etc., reflecting Vera's emotional volatility. Her polished exterior is a mask, the instability beneath the courtroom of her character. Section 17. Fan misconceptions. Popular culture often reduces Vera to the crazy yandere girl stereotype, fetishizing violence and instability. This underscores the complex trauma and grief underlying her actions, leading to dehumanization. This video advocates empathy and nuance, encouraging viewers to see beyond the memes and appreciate the human cost behind expression. Section 18. The Vera beneath, taking away the yandere tendencies. Why is that space? And I quote, she's kind, refined, and capable. Outside her fixation with Katalina, Vera is shown to be very intelligent, composed, and respected. Her leadership is respected and admired. Competence and elegance. Her speech is refined and elegant, and she demonstrates poise, tactical intelligence, and proper manners, indicating that she isn't as unstable as she is portrayed. Moments of clarity and warmth. In interactions not involving Katalina, we can see a glimpse of empathy, self-awareness, and even humor. Moments like this hint at what she could have been if she didn't have the stigma associated with her. Duality, not contradiction. We can emphasize that Vera's yandere traits aren't her entire personality. They can be seen as trauma response layered over one's whole self. This tragedy is not that she's insane, it's that she never had the potential to live differently. Okay. Section 19. Beyond the yandere trope. Vera beyond the stigma. Unlike many characters stereotyped under the yandere umbrella, Vira displays intense emotional control. She is not constantly impulsive or unhinged. Her breakdowns are situational most of the time, and she's composed, deliberate, and even graceful in speech and action. This highlights that her instability is not constant, but reactive to oddly specific situations. Vira operates effectively in her leadership role in Albion. This role demands discipline, planning, and leadership. She fulfills these responsibilities with poise, indicating that her obsession did not define her personality or impairing her from functioning outside of an emotionally triggering event context. Through voice lines and expression, she reveals moments of painful self-awareness. She knows she's not well. This capacity for self-reflection is what differentiates her from the basic yandere. Her actions are not mindless. She's trapped within them. While yandere stereotypes often depict possessive love turning violent for a thrill or to punish, Vera's behavior stems from genuine terror. Her obsessive actions are driven by a belief that without Katalina's recognition, she will vanish. This is emotional survival, not romantic conquest. Again, do not view what I wrote as yeah. Don't go that deep into it. Her visual and verbal poise aren't just aesthetic; they are a defense mechanism. They are a defense mechanism. Her calmness, beauty, refinement form a shell to hold back the chaos within. This is not theatrical insanity; it's masking professionalism and trauma in disguise. When not triggered, Vera's expressiveness expresses gentleness and loyalty. Her softer moments show she is capable of authentic, non-obsessive emotion, but her instability has in a sense, rewired her emotional anchor to be controlled by Catalina's presence. What defines Vera is not her potential for harm, but the depth of her character. Her story doesn't revolve around what she does to others. It's about how she has no control of it due to her mental fragmentation. Her obsession is not about possession. It's about not knowing how to be a person if she isn't needed. Section 21. Illusions of choice, conditioning versus free will. Vera's perception of love is shaped by reward and punishment. Warmth only came when she was useful. Obedience brought affection, and deviation invited emotional coldness. What she believes to be love may be emotional programming. Her feelings for Catalina, though deep, may reflect trauma bonding rather than autonomous choice. So in a sense, her desire is real, but it's a learned survival pattern. She was conditioned to love the one who gave her warmth in a world that otherwise gave her none. This raises a deep existential tragedy. If she never learned to love freely, has she ever truly loved at all? I'm still even thinking about that right now. So, Section 21, emotional safety and the fantasy of wholeness. At its core, Vera's obsession, in a sense, is a sense of fantasy, not romance, but emotional safety. Catalina becomes not just a person, but a symbol that offers stability, unconditional presence, and identity affirmation. Obsession is her way of trying to freeze one moment in her life where she felt whole and safe. It's a fantasy of performance in a life defined by performance and loss. This reframes her image as not a mad lover, but as someone clinging to the last emotional landmark in her collapsing world. She doesn't want to possess Catalina. She wants to escape the storm inside her mind. Holy shit! Okay, I think we're good. Let's get to the conclusion part of the outline. Holy crap! Time for the swig. I'm definitely taking a break after this. Holy shit, this was a doozy. But at least we're done. I say that, and I still have to write the script for this. There's probably not going to be a video released this week. Wait, Saturday, maybe by next Thursday, probably. Holy shit. I was staring way too much at the screen. I should have worn my glasses. What did we write up there? What if the love you crave isn't love at all, but a desperate attempt to stop yourself from disappearing? Okay. Do it. We don't use scrutiny. I was thinking that scrutiny won't really work here. We can use scarcity. Yeah, scarcity. Scarcity is good. Only two more. Let me read this again. Okay. Okay, I like that. All right. So we often Okay, I'm gonna write some diabolical shit right now. Yeah, I'm gonna write some diabolical shit. Um, I'm not saying she says this, but I'm just gonna write what Yandere normally would say. So, oh man, huh. Oh, yeah, we are making this shit diabolical. Are we here all week? Oh yeah, we are definitely making this shit diabolical. Here's your cringe for the week. Oh man. Oh, that's gonna be funny to actually dub. All right, let's continue this. Huh. Okay. Um. So what looks like session is often unhealed grief. I spelled that wrong. Unhealed grief. What looks is often survival. And what we call love. Uh, uh, it's the last breath before something disappears. Sometimes it is the last breath before real self disappears. I'll be here all week. Y'all got some cringe today. We'll end this off on a strong note, then. As usual, I like generally asking questions at the end of these. So the question is, how much of ourselves are we willing to erase just to be whole? No, just to be loved. There we go. Oh yeah, diabolical. Okay, this is gonna be a fun one. We began with a question: what if the love you crave isn't love at all, but a desperate attempt to stop? A desperate attempt to stop yourself from disappearing. Now we understand that was never hypothetical. For Vira, this is reality. Vira's not dead. She is something more haunting. Someone sculpted by expectation, twisted by emotional scarcity, and taught that love is something you must earn by sacrificing your selfhood. She was never allowed just to be, only to perform. The tragedy isn't that she broke, is that she was never allowed to exist in the first place. We often reduce characters like Vera to memes, to tropes, aesthetic archetypes. But if we truly stop and listen, we hear something deeper. A voice that says, please don't leave. Oh my god. A silence that says, if you do, I'll vanish. A life that says, I was only real when I was needed. What looks like obsession is often unhealed grief. What looks like madness is often survival. And what do we call love? Sometimes it is the last breath before the real self disappears. So the question is, how much of ourselves are we willing to erase to be loved? Okay, I like it. I like it. All right, this outline took a little bit too long for my liking, but I think we covered all the checks and balances. So I'm tired right now. We're gonna take a good extended break. Later on today, I'll work on the horror script that I started out yesterday. Then later on at night, I'll start the scripting for this. So good stuff. We actually did this. Holy shit. All right. I'm gonna go take a break. I'll be back later. Talk to people later. We out.